What's up, guys? Your boy TGK here on TGK TV, and today is episode 2 of One-on-One with TGK. And today's guest is none other than Nick the Writer, a local poet here out of Dallas, Texas. He has a book called Woke Up on the Wrong Side of the Universe. Did very well. A lot of people love his books. A lot of people love his poetry. And I wanted to bring him on the show to really talk about poetry and everything that it took for him to get to where he's at now, and talk about what his future endeavors are. So without further ado, here's One-on-One with TGK featuring Nick the Writer.
Let me introduce my guest first before we get into it.
I'm Nick the Writer. On Instagram, Nick the Writer _. Yeah, I like to write poetry. Poetry's my passion. I like to put rhythm and emotion in the flow. And I like to express from different angles. Like sometimes I put myself in other people's situations and I try to write from their angle, from their point of view. And I want to expand more than how I view things. It's kind of like say how like an author writes a book.
Right.
Like he has to put himself in different characters' shoes, you know. So that's pretty much what I'm doing with my poetry. And it helps me. It even helps me outside of the writing world. It helps me understand like other people, other people in my life, or friends, family, and all that. Because like I refer back. I kind of think back like my poetry, and I think like from life from their perspective. Especially if you have a disagreement with somebody. I feel like that's a good practice to have, is to like put your see in reverse, like as you as them, and seeing yourself through their eyes, and try to get a clear understanding of why this disagreement is going on. And then, you know, you compare and contrast like that person's point of view versus yours. I feel like that's healthy.
So if you don't know, Nick is a local poet out here. He's released a book.
Woke Up on the Wrong Side of the Universe.
Woke Up on the Wrong Side of the Universe. Yeah. And I've had friends that ever since we did the 3-point contest that they bought the book and they loved it. Awesome. So today on One-on-One with TGK, we're going to talk about poetry and everything that Nick's gone through to get to where he's at in his journey in poetry. So we're talking about the opposite perspective that you're talking about. With poetry, to me, I look at poetry like it's an art through expression of words, right?
It is.
Visualizing, being able to visualize something through words, and it's a performance in a way as well.
Yeah.
So what got you into it to begin with? I remember back then, we used to work together back in the Sports Authority, but I didn't know you were a poet back then, right? So now we fast forward, what got you into poetry?
What got me into poetry, I always been writing since I was a kid. I didn't know what I was writing was poetry. And then my girlfriend at the time, when I was like 19, when I was a freshman in college, she found my book and she was like, hey, your poetry, you need to put this out. And I was like, poetry? I never even thought about calling that poetry. So I like back in like 2010, 2011, it was really like hard to really, you know, put your poetry out there. So I was literally just writing it and not knowing what to do with it.
Right.
Yeah, Instagram poets like R.H. Sin, Atticus, Rupi Kaur, they really paved the way for to revamping the poetry community, because ever since the 90s, like poetry's been kind of dead. People weren't really, when you think of poetry, you just think of like Shakespeare. That's pretty much it. Yeah, but how the contemporary Instagram poets started their way of posting on Instagram. They really created a whole poetry community, which influenced me to post my poetry on there, and that's how I got to rolling with posting on Instagram. It ended up being like a ritual. Ended up being a way to like relieve stress. Just posting on Instagram every day.
Wow.
Yeah, Twitter and Instagram.
And so all right, so you're about to start this new thing in poetry, right? And so, and I want you to think of it from like someone that wants to become a poet, right? And post something and build the courage. So before you posted it, did you have any like fear or any hesitation with posting it, like that fear of, oh, will they accept it, will they like it, or even to put your name out there? You know, it's one of those things you have to overcome. Like, how did you feel that, one, and two, how did you get by it and actually being able to post your stuff?
Yeah, even to this day, I still kind of feel a little weird about posting because poets like Atticus, he's like a big poet. He doesn't even show his face. He wears a mask all the time. It's because he doesn't want people in his circle to judge him for what he's writing. It's like you're putting yourself out there,
Right.
And so like from the beginning, it was really hard. Like thinking like you post and then people around you thinking like, oh, you're just an emotional person, this and that.
Right.
But really, it's just an art. You gotta accept it for art, not see this person as being an emotional roller coaster. Because that does play a role. It does make it hard to post, like the fear of what people might say, what people might think of you as a person.
Right. And how did you deal with it to where you started posting and having that confidence in posting those poetry?
For me, I'm really a spiritual person, and I meditate every day. And when the more you meditate and you put yourself in the moment, you start realizing like what people think, what people care. It really doesn't matter.
Right.
It's all an illusion, and everybody just wants to be accepted. It's like what people think about your art or your creations, that like if they think negative of it, it's temporary.
Right.
So like if people judge you whatever you do, like the next week they're not gonna sit there and think like, oh yeah, I don't like his poetry. He sucks at writing. I don't like his emotions, this and that. So like for me, it took being in the moment and it recused me away from like external like negativity or what judgments people may put on me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you said that, because it's even with doing YouTube, right? You're putting your face in video and talking, and you're opening yourself up to all this criticism. And it's for anyone out there that's trying to become a poet, it's all art. And at the end of the day, as long as you put your heart into your art, no one's gonna necessarily judge you for being passionate about that. And so just putting it out there, that's really the message that I wanted you to get that across. And just, if it's fear, face it. When you get past that hurdle, you started making videos. That's another thing that I like, that you went from posting, poetry to you made it in a video format.
Oh yeah.
How did that go from posting, words on Instagram to then making it a visual of your poetry?
Yeah. What I did was, like when I did the videos, I literally took my poems and I created a spoken word out of them. And a lot of people say it sounds more like a song without a chorus to it because of the rhythm that I have. But I literally just took my poems and I created a visual of how if I were to see what this poem looks like, what would it be? And my goal was to have that synchronized.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I like them. I think that was a cool dynamic that you have.
Thank you.
That you could bring to poetry, because everything's visual.
Yeah.
Right, and so the fact that you were to think on that level, making poetry a visual thing, along with speaking words and making that a visual as well, is like a double visualization through poetry.
Yeah,
so it's pretty dope. So now with the Woke Up on the Wrong Side of the Universe, when you dropped that the book, right? How was it for you? First of all, how did you get to making the book, right? And then how were you able to release it? Like, for those that want to create a book and release it, what tips, what advice do you have for people that want to release a book and get it out on Amazon and stuff like that?
Yeah, it all starts with writing every day. A lot of people get caught up in, oh man, it's a lot of words to write, this and that. But if you write every day, at least 500 words a day, a book will pretty much, form. A book will basically create itself.
Right.
Like bloggers write every day. They pretty much can have a book out every 3 months. Right. How much they write. And that's the main thing, writing every day, and just worry about the editing later. And then you can publish your book through Amazon KDP, Amazon KDP, and there's a process that's like really simple to use. It's a step-by-step process. You just sign up, you get a cover, and then you get your writing document on the platform, and it all renders within 24 hours.
Wow!
And they also, what they do is you can have an ebook and a physical copy, and pretty much when somebody orders somebody orders a physical copy of your book,
right?
It doesn't really go out of your pocket. Amazon makes the book and sends it to the customer,
right?
And just takes and they just take their cut out of how much your book is worth, So
wow.
So say like if your book is worth if you put your book $30, and depending on like colors or how many pages, Amazon will deduct how much it costs for them to do the shipping and all that. So say like if it costs them $5,
right,
like the book will cost, you'll get paid $25. Yeah, so. And
that's neat. Like I didn't even know it was that easy.
Yeah.
So, how many total pages was the book?
My book was it was 116 for physical, and the ebook copy was 85.
116 for physical. And they would make it for you and ship it and everything. Wow.
Yeah.
See, man, and I used to write poetry as well. So the fact that you could create your book and have that many pages, to write so much poetry and have it released in that way, that's pretty awesome, man. Like we've come a long way in the technology to be able to create our own creations from here and not have to be with a large corporation to distribute a book. Like that's pretty awesome.
We can cut out the
middleman.
Middleman. So that's what's awesome about today's world, and like when it comes to marketing, you really don't need a big company to do your marketing for you. You can learn marketing on YouTube, learn the algorithms of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter,
and then you can do it the old-fashioned way, grassroots.
Right?
You go out there and get it. So how did you with the outcome from the book once you released it? What was the reception that you got?
Everybody, if you look at the comments on Amazon on my book, everybody liked that I put 2 poems in one. So I think that's what made it stand out, because not a lot of people
I like that
doing
too.
That.
And then like it was like different colors and it was. I like that too. And the friends that I had that purchased the book, they loved it as well. So
I'm glad they liked it. Thank you. I appreciate you showing everybody my book.
Yeah, and then that was the whole point of the 3-point contest. Even though I got you on a 3-point contest, whatever I was able to get, it puts them out there, and that's the whole idea, is to kind of push it forward. So what's next for you, man?
I've been working on a book called Dive Into a Sea of Consciousness. I already wrote it, but I'm like, it's very like doing the 2 poems in one. This book is gonna be like 300 pages, so it's a lot of poems to create 2 poems in one. So that's what I'm working on right now, is like doing all the editing and all that. And I got pictures in there. It's gonna be fiction. Half of the book's gonna be fiction, a fictional story. So
nice.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
And what's it called? Diving into
a sea of consciousness.
Wow,
yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty much like a whole sentence, like the first book, Woke Up Rosedown Universe. Yeah, I'm doing sentences for the titles.
Nice. And when are you anticipating releasing it?
This one might take a bit, so
300 pages, I imagine.
Yeah. And I wrote everything, but just all the editing, and I have a illustrator that's like putting pictures in the book too. So yeah, I'm going back and forth with her on like what pictures go with what poems, and even in the fictional story, I'm gonna have some pictures in it. It's gonna be in the end half of the book. It's gonna have a fictional story. I'm gonna have some pictures in there. And it's not gonna be like a kid book or anything. It's gonna be kind of, if you're familiar with Rupi Kaur, how she has pictures, or like Ari Sen, it's gonna have like pictures that relate to the poems.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so, what is something you could give us from like the poetry? What is What is something that, since you started doing the poetry, what is something that has has anyone that reached out to you in the poetry community that kind of caught you by surprise?
The author of Her and Her Volume 2. Yeah, I spoke to him. I actually met him at SMU, and he actually said that his wife heard of my poems and she liked it. So I was like, I was surprised.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. And that's the beauty in creating. You know, you'll be making videos, right? And then there's always videos or poetry or whatever type of content you make, and someone in that same lane, so to speak, will kind of notice you.
Yeah.
And it's like always a gratifying feeling, I imagine.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah,
it's dope.
I was speechless. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that many people like really saw like my words.
Right.
Yeah, because I guess the way Instagram works is like more people than just your followers can see your stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And then you have a really good following on Instagram and Twitter.
Oh yeah.
And so it goes a long way whenever you could build that following and then maintain them and constantly give them what they were following you for, so to speak. So other than that, man, what is something that you could give as far as advice to a poet out there, besides everything that we talked about? We talked about, getting the courage to post it, writing every day, and then give them tips on how to release product. What is something that you find that it's required or that you would recommend for poets out there to, get into this avenue and release it to the public?
I think it starts off first with studying your craft. Like, study all the greats. Find poets that you feel like you can resonate with, and even memorize some poetry. Like when I first started writing poetry, I was memorizing like Shakespeare, Maya Angelou, Robert Frost, and I would post them on those videos on YouTube. I actually think I deleted a lot of those videos, but it was more of a practice for me to basically study my craft, and it helped elevate my writing. Like a lot of poems from like Shakespeare, Maya Angelou, and Robert Frost inspired me. Inspired some of the content that I was writing about. So I really think it's important for people to just find books of poetry and just start reading it. Even read plays like Shakespeare. Read like Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet. Just reading, like, cause the more you read, the more you can come up with like metaphors, and the more you can like increase the power of your syntax. And I feel like reading plays a big role.
You said syntax.
Syntax, yeah, basically like the way you form your words.
Okay.
Like the power within your words. That's what I like to say what syntax is. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing spoken words and like in front of crowds and stuff like that?
In front of crowd, I have done it. I do it from time to time.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't do it that often. And sometimes people contact me to do spoken word, but it's like
it's a whole different vibe, right?
Yeah, it's a whole other vibe. And a lot of these people are like in different countries. Like a lot of these people are in London and stuff. So yeah, I really don't have the time right now to fly out there.
Right.
It's crazy. Like most of the people that buy my books are in London. Somehow, I don't know how that happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Whenever I see spoken word, it looks intimidating, but also I think everybody in there understands the art, so it's a little different because then they start.
And spoken word is like poetry and acting at the same time. Right. You're acting your words.
Yeah, and there's a performance at the same time.
Yeah, and I feel like more of the skill is acting, because you can say something that doesn't mean anything, but if you act like tomatoes in the pan, it comes. It's more powerful. It has more meaning. So it's just your breathing techniques are there's a lot goes into spoken word. Wow.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I appreciate you being my second guest here on One-on-One with TGK. Really wanted to kind of get you to elaborate on your story and speak on it, and hopefully someone out there can see the story and pick something up from it and be inspired by that. And again, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Appreciate you inviting me, man.
Yeah, no problem, man.
All right.
Thank you, bro.
We're gonna have to do another 3-point contest.
Yeah, we gotta do that for
I
sure.
got you next time.